Welcome to the High Performance Man podcast. I am your host, John Fayocavitz. On this show, I interview successful men who have built impressive careers and businesses, founders, CEOs, and senior leaders and professionals who have operated at a high level for years. We talk about what actually made them successful. The goal is simple: to learn directly from men who have done it so we can apply those insights into our careers, businesses, and lives and continue raising our own standard of performance. The show is sponsored by the Prime Performance Method. The Prime Performance Method is designed specifically for high performing men who have achieved success in their careers, but feel like their body and energy have taken a hit along the way. I help busy professional men regain strength, lose weight, and feel younger within 8 weeks without long workouts, extreme dieting, or disrupting your demanding schedule. If you are a high performing man who wants to feel as strong and energized as you are successful, message me, John Fayocavitz, on LinkedIn. On today's show, we have Mark Macias. He is the CEO and founder of Macias PR, where he helps founders and brands tell stories that get them noticed by the media. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's get started with this question. What's the most important lesson you've learned so far that helped you become successful in your business?
I think it's honesty. And that's because everyone's selling something in the world, and there's so many people that have an agenda. Really smart people, they can read through it. And
Right.
when you're honest, they're like, you know what? He didn't say what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear him say this for me to go and buy from him, but he was honest, and that mattered.
Right. Okay. So honesty, because there's so many things out there. On social media, like you were just mentioning, and you got to sift through. Again, what I'm talking is you got to sift through that stuff, the bull crap. I mean,
Yeah.
there is so many things that people are just trying to laud their own laurels and their own things, and they're not really helping people the way they should be helping them. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, especially in PR, which is selling stories to the media or selling to new clients. So a company, very large company based out of Canada, the CEO emailed me, asked for a proposal, gave it to him, and then he emailed me back something that I hear from a lot of people, which is, can you guarantee media coverage? Well, I get emails all the time from people saying, I guarantee media coverage. No, there's no such thing. The Wall Street Journal, we're not talking about advertising. The Wall Street Journal, CNBC, New York Times, any of the big legitimate papers, news outlets, you can't buy a news story. And I told him in a nice way, I said, you can't buy earned media. And if someone says that they can do that and that's what you want, there's no guarantee.
Right. Exactly. Now you mentioned it again. I've seen this before. The marketing or the PR that you own, you did stories. Is that the big thing going in right now?
100%. And it's not just relevant for brands and entrepreneurs. Stories. There was a Wall Street Journal article out a couple of weeks ago, and it talked about how there's a shortage of storytellers. Being able to tell a story is really critical now. And, even whether it's telling your story like this, telling your brand, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're a physician and you need to explain how a different type of drug works to your client, or your patient, you should be able to tell the story in a way that people can understand.
Right. And what I'm getting out of that is you feel like you're genuine. That the person feels like you're a
Yeah.
genuine person
Yeah.
when you're telling your story.
Yeah. I mean, I'll use a personal story there. I went to the
Yep.
physician just for a checkup about a month ago. And this doctor was like explaining this that was complicated. And I've worked with longevity doctors. I've worked with Columbia University Medical Center with their orthopedics department. I've worked with healthcare, health tech, really smart people. And I think I can grasp a lot of this stuff, but it was almost like he was trying to make it complicated. And, I came out and asked him like some questions. I even felt bad. I said, I'm sorry I'm asking these questions, but I'm not following you here. And he's like, oh, I want to hear questions. I'm not sure he did want to hear questions. He wasn't able to communicate the story of how this worked and how it could work for me.
Right. Okay. Do you think that you seem to read through people that are honest in their stories? Do you see
Um, I,
that?
I think if you've been in business long enough or you've been around the block, you don't have to be in business. You could be a school teacher. You can usually tell when someone's being honest, when someone has an agenda. Now, there's always the shysters that are, selling something. You do need to be careful. But, if you use your critical thinking that God
Right.
gave us and you push it and challenge it, hopefully you can read through the lies.
Yeah. I call it the BS meter.
Yes, that I used to use that one. I forgot about that one. It's been so long. There it
Yeah.
is.
Everybody's got their own, but I mean, we get you. If it doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right, trust me,
Yeah.
it's not right.
Yep. And that can save you in business. It can save your health. It can save, pretty much anything as long as you're able to read through that.
Great. Okay. My next question then, Mark. What do you think hinders a lot of men today from reaching their full potential?
Focus.
That's I it's like we're all over the place.
Yeah, we're pulled. I can understand in hindsight now, looking back, how and why it's easier when you're younger without kids to succeed. You're not being pulled in different ways. I became an executive producer with NBC in New York at a very young age, 26 years old. And
Wow.
I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. I didn't have all of these pressures that took and pulled from me. Instead, I was very focused on the job. Today, now I have a 5-year-old, I have a 2-year-old, I have a wife, I have, there's always, I have a business, there's always something pulling in some way. And I have to be conscious. Okay, I need to stay focused on this client. I need to stay focused on this campaign, or I need to, it's because there's so many different factors pulling us.
How many years have you been in your business?
It's going to be 17 years I've been running this agency I started this in 2009 in June. So this June, it's hard to believe, 17 years all I've been running this business.
Wow. And you have employees then underneath you?
Yeah, a lot of it shifted. I had an office in Midtown Manhattan before COVID. My wife used to say, why do you have an office? You don't need an office. You can work remotely. This was before COVID. And I'm like, no, we need to be in the office. We need to be there as a team. And she's a consultant too, so it was a different perspective, but kind of aligned in the industry. And COVID happened, and overnight we all woke up and said, "Uh-oh, we all have to work remote. How are we going to make this work?" And it's become better because it allows me to hire people in different places.
Right.
It just makes more life flexibility, more enjoyable. It allows life to work around us as opposed to the other way around.
Now, is your business basically in South Florida, or do you have
Yeah, so my wife and I, because of partially, I give, COVID credit, if you can say
right?
that. 2 years ago, we were, I guess it was just December, so 2.5 years ago, we're like, we're sick of New York City. I loved it. All my friends said, there's no way you're ever leaving. This is I lived there for 23 years and as much of a New Yorker than anyone else. I had a blast there and was hard driving and pushing and everything. But when you have younger kids, at least for us, it was like, I don't know if I want to be shuffling that snow again this year. I don't know if I
Right.
want to be, putting on those coats and layers and that blizzard that's coming. We've always talked about moving. Let's move it. So 2 years. I've been down here 2 years this month.
2 years. Wow. So you were from New York. What part of New York were you? New
We
York
well,
City?
I'm originally from Arizona, but New York City, we lived in Manhattan and we lived in Brooklyn.
Great. Great, great, great. All right. My next question. For most men on their road to business or professional success, other areas of their life get sacrificed. What has been one of the areas of your life that has suffered, if you have that been, and what did you take to be successful now?
Definitely initially it was my social life. Um, you know,
Now,
being
you're
an
talking way back when you first
yeah,
started?
NBC. When I was with NBC and CBS, there was a point one time where so I was promoted to executive producer from NBC in Miami to NBC in New York. I was young. Most kids at that age, you want to go to the bar and hang out after work and just have a happy hour with some colleagues. And when I went to New York, I was kind of the same way. It was, 26 years old, and HR told me in a nice way, these people report to you, Mark. You shouldn't be inviting them out for happy hour. Which was kind of maybe that kept me out of trouble. But that meant after work, I didn't have any friends because I was essentially the boss.
You were
And
the boss.
yeah, at NBC in Miami, your colleagues, but there it's like you can't have that favoritism. So it became I don't want to say a lonely existence, but my social sphere was definitely impacted.
And how long was that? You think you went? Was it
Yeah,
CBS?
so that was so I went to CBS after that. My boss twice wanted to make me executive producer, and that was part of the deal with me coming over. And I turned it down both times. The second time she said, we need to get more of you. We're paying you too much to be a senior producer. We want you as executive producer of this unit. And I was like, I was a peer again, and I realized at that time life was short. It's a long time ago, so it's not that short. But that gave me more perspective from the social perspective.
Right. So during the course of your business or getting it, things have changed. So if it was a social life then, did things had to shift as you were getting up?
Yeah, it was a little different as I started my business because, I always had young people right out of college, and it's a different perspective. I would say as a group, hey, let's go out on this happy hour and celebrate this big win for the week. They wanted that. And I think that camaraderie made us a stronger team. It made it more fun for them. And they were great times. Now again, it's the world adapts and we have to adapt with it.
Right. And I think you mentioned before that you have two kids.
Yeah.
So and a wife. It's so that shift focused that was there anything going in that realm with the kids?
Um,
Like you said, you put a lot of focus then.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm following your question, but definitely having the firstborn during COVID was a big deal. He's actually going to be 6 later this month, but that was in the height of COVID when he
Right.
was born, and we were all kind of, we were all kind of shaken up at the same time. Our only difference is that we had a newborn, and we were kind of isolated inside our home.
Right. Okay. I guess what I was trying to say is that as you were growing your business, things shifted. Something I might have hindered. So it was your social life. Now, how about your health and things like that? Was that you put a lot of pressure on yourself? Did you work a lot of hours?
Yeah, I would say yes. When I was starting the business in 2009, 2012, 2015, I didn't really go to the gym as much
Okay.
as I could have it. In hindsight, now I'm at the gym 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And I'm not
Really?
taking the gym. I take, fit classes, hit classes, yoga.
Right.
I'm a big
Right.
believer in yoga. And, that I kind of feel like had I done that when I was in my 30s, it would have been so much easier. Now I'm doing this 4 or 5 times a week, and I'm like, am I really changing my body? Whereas back then I would do it just a couple of days, and I could have gotten so much farther ahead.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. 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 All right. My next question. This is, I usually put a lot of people to put thought into this one. Where do you find yourself most at peace?
Oh, that's a good question. I would like to say at church, but with two young kids, I haven't been able to go in a long, long time. So I would say the next place of tranquility would probably be in yoga.
Okay. That's great. Now, does your yoga class, because do you have a routine, a morning routine? Like a lot of men, they get up and they have that routine. Do you have that in your
Yeah,
life?
I don't. I wish I did. One of my clients, and I want to revolve a campaign around him because he was saying he's a very successful CEO of, I don't want to drop names, but
Yeah.
he does yoga every day at 5 a.m. And I'm like, I, there's so much more that we can explore on the successful habits of the CEO. In my case, I have to adapt to my kid's schedule. For example, this
Right.
morning, I dropped one off at the school bus, took the other one to daycare, and it was about 7:45, 7:50. I'm like, you know what? I have time for an 8:15 class. I didn't know if it was going to be yoga or a HIIT class. Turned out to be a HIIT class, but I just drove right there and, did my class. Sometimes yesterday it was 4:30 when I took a HIIT class because,
Okay.
I have to adapt on my schedule.
So you take your yoga class at the gym?
No, yeah, it's more of a fitness class.
Okay.
It's a yoga joint. It's throw a shout out to them. It
Okay.
does yoga, hot yoga, and fit classes.
Oh, great. So do you spend any time alone at all? Like you regroup and just sit down and meditate, or is there anything like that?
I don't meditate. I think my tranquility when I am alone comes from my writing.
Oh, you're a writer.
Yeah. I've written a book. I wrote an off-Broadway play that
Great.
ran in New York City right before COVID. And I've developed it into a screenplay and working on that angle right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's great to know. I'm glad you mentioned that. My listeners will be, that's awesome, man. That
Yeah.
is super, 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 super. All right. Next question. If you were to give one piece of advice to other men that are on their way to journey of achieving success, what would that be?
One piece of advice to give to achieve success.
Yes.
I'd
That are
say
on their journey. They're starting their journey.
starting their journey, I'd say you just have to be persistent. There's more than just one. It's not really a black or white. It's really a lot of different factors. But if I had to throw one at the top, it would be persistence. You can't quit. You have to just, keep plowing through. It doesn't matter if it's trying to stay healthy, like going to the gym or starting a business or continuing a business. It's hard to start a business. It's hard to maintain a business. It doesn't
Right.
run on its own. Some people think, oh, the hard time is the startup. No, it's not. It continues.
Well, according to some of the gurus on social media, it's easy.
Well, if it's easy, as we all know, anyone could do it. And if anyone
Right.
could do it, then everyone would have a business.
Yeah. Everybody would have a business. No, but I think that persistence and hard work is the thing. Um, it's something in my business. Again, I have to get through to some people to have them not quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's even more critical. What I love about this yoga and these HIIT classes I'm taking is they really hit home that you're taking care of the most important thing in the world, which is your health. Because without your health, doesn't matter if you're making millions, doesn't matter if you're Jeff Bezos or Angela Bozo, down the street.
Right.
Without your health, that's really what we have, and that really requires persistence of eating healthy. Not to take your platform here, but I'm a big
No,
believer
no.
in clean eating. You can't eat a hamburger every day. You can't eat Burger King every day. You got to realize,
It seems like it's common sense, the things that we should be doing, but I guess it's that rapid, fast-paced environment that we're in that
yeah.
we want everything like a microwave.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is when you do eat healthy and you put in that little effort of maybe eating a little bit more vegetables, you really feel you have more energy and you
Exactly.
my kids, I don't even know their weight. Maybe one's 30 pounds, maybe one's 40. And sometimes they both want to be lifted up at the same time. I'm lifting up this one, the other one wants to be lifted up. And I'm so happy when I can grab them both and walk up our stairs to the second floor and put them to bed. I mean, that doesn't happen because I was watching TV. It happens because I was working out.
Right. Well, that's, and I I like to tell people this stat, right? Because I follow it. The AARP back in, I think it was 2022 or 2000, and it's probably going to be worse now, that the age from 55, okay, to 75, okay, that retirement age, we are spending $250,000 on healthcare.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And what I try to realize and try to get to people is, if you're saving this and you have a 401k or you got $250,000 and you're not taking care of your body, guess what? Your savings is gone. Now, what are you going to do when you retire?
Yeah. I have a relative, I don't want to say her name.
Yep.
She's going to be 80 years old and she plays pickleball every day.
Oh,
And I'll tell you what, she looks like she's 65 and she looks great. And I tell her that all the time. Wow, you look great. And, it's hard to believe that she's 80. Some people might take that as an insult because they're like, well, what are you saying? I'm old? Well, no, but as we get older, we do lose a little bit, but it's really a long-term game.
yes, it is. Great, great. All right, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on. Okay. And as a reminder to everyone listening, this show is brought to you by the Prime Performance Method, where I help high-performing men rebuild their strength, energy, and confidence without sacrificing their careers. If you are ready to feel as strong in your body as you are successful in your business, message me at John Fayocavitz on LinkedIn. Until the next episode, please be strong in all areas of your life.